Am I the asshole for pretending not to know my fiancé after she had a meltdown during boarding the plane and was eventually thrown off? This posted by Sandlad Haha Gotcha. I imagine I'm gonna get raked over the coals for this one. So, my fiancé, maybe not for much longer, and I were on our way back from a vacation recently. It was a great time and everything went off without an issue. That is until we started boarding the plane. Now I know better. I only bring a small backpack with essentials in case I don't get my checked bags. I can survive out of this backpack and it will always pass baggage check for size and weight. Done a lot of traveling, so why fight the system? My fiance didn't want to listen to my advice and chose to bring basically a regular full-size bag that barely fits the standards of carry-on, but generally speaking the airline worker doesn't want to deal with all the trouble and allows it through. But this time the airline worker was not having it. It was a packed flight. We were boarding last in economy and it was just a shit show. I got through just fine first with my little backpack, but I could hear the argument from the boarding tunnel thingy and it was getting heated. I was about to go back and try to smooth it out, but my fiance rushed past and just boarded the plane. I assume, not having heard it super clearly, that the attendant had given in and let her on. That was not the case. So we found our seats and settled in. I was pretty tired and could tell she was upset. So I just kind of tucked into the window and put my hat down and tried to take a nap. But soon after, the airline worker and a cop shows up and they are not fucking around and want her off the plane. She tries to plead and cry, etc., but they are not having it. And maybe in a moment of panic or just plain self-preservation, the cop asks if we're together and I blurt out, "No," shaking my head emphatically. I got kill dagger eyes from her as she shot up and grabbed her bag and followed the cop out. She was also swearing and screaming the whole way out. Now, obviously this is well after the event I'm posting this, but when she did eventually get home, she caught the next flight out with the bag checked, lol. I was there to pick her up. She obviously thought I was the asshole, and to be honest, almost everyone I know thinks I'm an asshole except my boss and coworkers, who for context were very much relying on me to get back on time, which I gave my word I would, for a really important project that was time sensitive. They were all very happy I didn't get thrown off too. So am I the asshole for this self-preservation? Let's read a couple of the top comments here, shall we? I have my own thoughts. I want to see what the general populace thought here and go from there. From BF Herrera, NTA, get out while you still can. This is how she'll be forever. She'll never learn from this experience. And in response to that, Catalina Baylor fan, disagree. Nothing like the humiliation of a cop escorting you off a plane to learn that the rules really are a thing. Loss of time, money, and public humiliation are very powerful teachers. And now OP can reference this whenever she forgets her social decorum. Acting up in a restaurant? Geez, I hope they don't escort you out of here like they did off that plane. And another from RNBQ4103, there is a video of a difficult lady being removed for throwing a tantrum at a t-shirt. Her husband followed. He missed his father's funeral due to it. That sort of thing will keep happening to OP if he stays. Okay. So, my gut reaction was to put myself in OP's shoes, and in that case, it would be my wife, not a fiance. And maybe it changes when you get married. If they were married, would this be any different? Because my gut was, when you're married, you're a united front. Right? You, for better or worse, said that you're in this thing together and you face everything together. So I would have absolutely stayed with my wife. Now, if there was, the OP had an agreement with work to be back at a specific time, so maybe if anything, there would be a conversation right as this shit was going down, and it would be like, hey, honey, I don't have a choice but to get to work or the whole world is going to fall apart. So I have to go. I don't have a choice. If you're cool with staying and figuring this out, I will meet you there. Obviously, that's not ideal, but it wouldn't be ideal to lose my job either, so let's fight one fight at a time. And made a plan together, but that's not what happened here. They acted as individuals instead of a unit. And maybe this speaks to larger red flags about the relationship down the road and how OP's fiance could behave. Or maybe not. Maybe this was an isolated incident. But I think the big lesson here is that communication could have prevented this from being even worse. In general here, since she was OP's fiance, I'm going to say that OP was an asshole. Not a complete total asshole, because there were other factors involved, but for not communicating why he was making the decisions that he was making, I think there's a little bit of assholery going on there. Refer to our ASCON scale. Definitely not an ASCON 1 for this. Let's see here. ASCON 2 is definitely shouldn't have done that, but it doesn't make you a terrible person. ASCON 3 is you probably should have approached that differently. And I'm going to go with ASCON 3 here. So not even a 50% asshole here, but I feel like definitely should have approached that differently. Obviously, in the heat of the moment, that's tough. And it's easy for me in hindsight to say here, oh, you could have done that differently and should have done that differently. But in the heat of the moment, while this shit was going down, he panicked. and did so because he had to get back for work, but didn't explain that to his fiance. So I hope he has explained it now, and hopefully that smooths things over, but not doing it ahead of time made her feel abandoned, and I can't imagine doing that to my wife. That would be a shit thing to do. Now, what OP's fiance did was also a shit thing to do. So she's actually an ASCON 2 here, at least. Definitely shouldn't have done that, but it doesn't make her a terrible person. She was just trying to get on the plane, but there are rules and you can't just burst through them and get your way. That's not how it works. And when you try to, this happens. You get escorted off of a freaking airplane. So she's more of an asshole than the OP is. Faux show. She might be an ASCON 1. It depends on if this is an isolated incident or if this is some kind of behavior that's in character for her. And if that's the case, throw that red flag confetti and run, boy. If this is an isolated thing and it's completely out of character for her, you can probably salvage this and not have a future that is just public drama over and over and over again. Hopefully. Either way, you have an uphill battle on your hands here. So good luck. If you guys do end up getting married, at that point, you will be expected to stay with her as a united front and as a unit. So prepare yourself for that. Maybe communicate a bit more and have a game plan. Maybe anytime you travel with her now, there's a contingency plan where it's like, okay, babe, so if you end up getting, escorted off the plane and arrested this time, I can stay with you because I don't have to be back at work at a certain time, but maybe this other time I do have to leave you behind. So maybe we just had this backup plan. Having to plan for your fiance getting escorted off of a plane is a shitty thing to do, but you know what? There's precedent now.